So over the last couple of weeks, we've touched upon, we started second chapter with Bhagwan giving the ultimate knowledge to impress upon Arjuna to get back to action. And slowly, he descended from that to a next worldly, to angle of what we call dharma. The dharma is where doing righteous duty. And there we brought in the concept of sadharma, the sadharma being what is a natural action that I do, what comes natural to me to act on, what is commensurate with my abilities, with my talents, with my skills. That was also, then the third part of it, we descended even further. When I say descended, meaning down to a ground level reality. What does the society reflect upon you? How will the society perceive you if you don't act? Right. And all of these things pertain to us also in whatever we do, right? That also matters. So having come to that level, now he's still in that level of action. And what comes naturally after that is what defines the action. What defines action is the thoughts define the action. What types of thoughts should I have? What type of quality thoughts should I have? What should govern the action? What is behind the action? All of that is going to get talked about pretty much for the rest of this chapter. So that's where Karma Yoga comes in. So Karma Yoga actually is dealt with separately in third chapter. It's going to go into a lot more depth. But I think Krishna Vedavyas is planting the seed for it here so that, we get a taste of it. And it's very practical, right? Whatever we're going to touch upon here is not a conceptual thing. It really is ground level reality, right? So the more and more we, reflect on it, talk about it, question it, that much the better for us. Because why is it required? Karma Yoga is required because by doing certain types of actions, right, and the attitude towards actions, I am purifying myself, right? And why is the purification necessary? In order for me to be able to, understand, assimilate, or even be receptive to a higher sense of knowledge, right? Otherwise, it will, not really sink in, right? So for that mental readiness, to have that purity, right, some sense of purity, some level of action is needed, right? That's the reason, if you look at even Art of Living, they talk about seva. Somewhere that what does that seva do? It's doing a lot of, sadhana also is there, but seva is just so much, right? Because it does a lot to our inner self in terms of purification. So here, so we touched upon the 41st stanza. Now we will move onwards to 42nd. So we'll chant 42, 43, 44. They have a very common thread in terms of the essence. So we'll chant that first and then we'll go into the understanding of it. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipaschitaha vedavadarata partha nanyadastiti vadhinaha kamatmana swargapara janma karma phalapradam kriya vishesha bahulam भोगैश्वर्य गतिं प्रति भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां तयापहृत चेतसां व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिः समाधौ न विधीयते. So you'll see these stanzas where Krishna is fairly blunt about his, his reflection on, what people tend to do, right, in this. So he starts with this, and I'll probably pick certain words in each of these stanzas and, cover the essence that you'll be able to understand it. So you see this word called avipaschitaha in the first line of 42nd verse. So avipaschitaha literally means unintelligent. What is unintelligent? Let's not understand in all of this, you have to take it from the standpoint of one's growth, right? So unintelligent doesn't mean the person is dumb. So unintelligent in the context of Vedanta means somebody who is very much selfish possessed, somebody who's always looking to have selfish gains in whatever he or she does, right? And the whole life and whole day-to-day action, the thoughts. So the thoughts itself are materialistic in nature. Materialistic is nothing wrong with it, right? But if it is meant towards my upliftment, it's for me, for my growth, for my, family, my, that little circle. And why is it ultimately everybody's looking for that happiness? So somewhere he or she looks at, if I gain this thing, I will get happy. I'll become happy. Right? Little does that person realize that, let's just take, I get so much of money, right? I have a bed and I want to go to a beautiful spring bed or whatever mattress. They say money can, buy a beautiful bed, but does money buy sleep? Not necessary, right? Having a wonderful bed doesn't mean having wonderful sleep. There's a lot more connotation to it. Similarly, I can buy people. Maybe buy people meaning, I can win over people by money, by bribery, whatever else it is. Can I buy love? Not necessary. So there is a limitation which that person may not understand. But thereafter, what is perceived as, I need to get this. So, Vedas, if you look at it, it's never, and all this is not about, it's not that in our life we are not going to look for materialistic gains. We are not looking for, we should be looking for a growth in the corporate ladder and business, whatever it is. But the question is that all there is to life? Is there something more to life, right? Somewhere, my own emotional growth, my own intellectual growth, right? Beyond that, selfish intent is what I think is required. That growth is also equally important. That is what is stressed here. Then you see this word Nanya Dastiti Vadinaha, second line of 42nd stanza. So this person is not interested in nobler things, moral values, service mentality. It is almost, right? And Krishna is fairly blunt here. This person's life is all about eat, work, procreate, and be merry. So one can say literally, it looks harsh, but it's hit a point in everyone, right? Sometimes you have to be direct and say, and guess what? That's what, Krishna will say this in the later parts of Gita. Majority of the people are into this. Not aware of what there's much more to life. And they will dawn on them someday. It's a question of only time, right? So, kamat manaha. You see that word also. Kama, you all know the word kamat means what? Sensory pleasure. Why sensory? See, ultimately everybody is looking for happiness, but sometimes they think that, if I am able to please my, my mouth with tasty food, or my ears with beautiful music, right? Or my other sense organs with whatever sensory pleasures there are, that's all there is to life, right? Person is not yet dawned that these are limited, it has shortfalls, etc., etc. Those come later. Swarga paraha, you see the word, there's a word called Swarga paraha that comes there. Swarga para in the 43rd stanza, first line. Swarga para means what? This person is looking for heaven. You wonder, heaven means a nice thing, right? But heaven in pleasures. Sometimes I felt like heaven, yeah. I went to this place, tasty food. It was amritam. It's like heaven, heavenly food. We say that, right? That kind of a thing. So it's not that heaven as in, a higher abode or uplifting yourself spiritually to be in that state. Not at all. It is still in the realm of limited happiness. What can I get tomorrow? Where I can get these pleasures. So if you look at it, a lot of this is, so what is this saying? Karma yoga in some sense is saying, it is beyond your selfish needs. The more and more actions that you do, It is outside the realm of your limited circle. My wife, my spouse, my house, my job, etc., and be a bit broader, a bit wider. What can I do to the society? What can I do to the country? You know, that service mentality, that seva mentality, so much the better. And then he goes to this Pushpa Yamima Pushpitam Vacham. You see that first line of 40 seconds. Pushpitam Vacham, flowery speech. Now, who gives a flowery speech? The people who do these sort of immoral actions, they will convince. And there are people who are, they're waiting to be, to hear this. Wow, I did this. It may be legitimate things, illegitimate things, and I got this, I won this, etc. And today I'm booming. I've got this happening in my business, this happening in my career. You should also do this. So this flowery speech is what is to, influence on others, to do some things that, where he or she has gained some pleasure, right? And to replicate it there in their life. So this is where, there is an aspect of, the Vedas that we have to understand. If you see Vedas, broadly speaking, Vedas have got three broad segments. First is called mantras, the second is called brahmanas, and third is called Upanishad. What are mantras? Mantras are like those, like Rudram Chamakam that we see, right? Rudra Puja or many other chants that you see, Vedic chantings, all come underneath that. And it's got a purifying effect, nevertheless, no question about it. Then comes the brahmanas, which are the rituals aspect of it. Rituals are, again, nothing wrong with it, right? Let's say that I do a ritual. We have also done Ati Rudram back, if you go back to when we had the COVID times, right? We did 2 times on the ashram, to uplift, to remove all the negative energies in and around here in the world, right? So those were done over several days. So like that, there are, and then, so that's for a very noble cause. I can also do some Vedic, rituals, I want to get this promotion, or, I'm the small house, I should get into a bigger house. My business is right now 1 billion, I should get to 1 billion. Again, what? My inner, achievement that I'm looking at there. Or, rituals as, go to this place, go to this temple, do 100 times pradakshina. See, let's not mistake this, right? We are not trying to say that going to a temple, doing these rituals is anything wrong with it, right? You have to see what's the motive behind it. What is the intent behind it? And that's where the Karma Yoga comes into the picture. The action by itself may not be wrong. It is just like, the doctor taking the knife may not be wrong, right? But what he does with it, right? What is the intent behind that knife is what's important. So therefore, and then there is here, there's another word where it says, we do things, to fulfill these needs. And for some reason, I've done all these rituals and yet I'm not achieving something for my needs. So what I try to do, I now do adharmic things. I try to do unethical things, things that are not to be done, things that might take you to prison. Why? Because I want to achieve something, a desire. So these people who do this, they don't have the concept, in bad things that I do, there is the concept of punya and papa, etc. For them, it's all secondary. I now have to achieve this, I have to get this. So all of these are, in some sense, negative thoughts, negative tendencies, etc. And in all of this, the clarity of thinking is not there. You can also say the goals of these people are not goals, priorities, are not there. Even if it is there, it is very much selfish, oriented. So all of these, he says in one of the stanzas, that janma karma phala prasadam. So what it means is that you do these things. If today I have a particular desire, right? If I have a want, I want to get this done for myself. I get it. That leads to 10 other desires. And it has got a spiraling effect. And all of that I'm not able to fulfill in this birth. I take a rebirth. So he's also saying that the more and more these are so much integrated in one head in terms of thoughts, which leads to actions, it just leads to birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. So way back earlier in the chapter, he talked, right, about coming out of this phenomenon of, rebirth, death, etc., right? So here, the reason I bring this up is this is the negative side of, where people are so much, entrenched in negative thought processes, etc. So slowly now we'll go to the 45th stanza, Chandar. So this is going to now talk about, so you could see the earlier three stanzas, right? The quality of the thoughts, the quantity of the thoughts, and what are those kind of thoughts? Now here is going to go a little bit into the bit more on the quality. What can define a slightly better quality of thought? And all of this has got a certain linkage, and that linkage will come in a few stanzas from now. Traigun, which is 45th stanza now. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavachunan Nidvando Nityasatvasto Niryogakshema Atmavan. So this is a very potent sutra. So here he talks about first Nitraigunya Vishaya Veda. That means what? Our life, right? An integral part of our life is, our thoughts, our actions are all governed by three gunas, right? This came earlier also in this chapter. What are those three gunas? Sattva, Rajasic, Tamasic. Sattva being very puristic, ethical, Rajasic, which is very action-oriented, but if it's done excessively, can also lead to, restlessness and so forth. And tamasic is just essentially a giving up mentality, which is what Arjuna was at the beginning of the second chapter. Giving up, not wanting to do, inertia, right? Tamasic. All of this is there, and there in everyone. Even the gurus have it, everybody has it. But people who have spiritually evolved, don't get entrenched into it. Or, so here what Arjuna, so what Krishna is telling Arjuna, Nistrigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunyo Bhavajana, come out of this. Or, it's not that you can totally get rid of it. You have to live, right? I mean, let's ask ourselves, right? I need tamasic, even though tamasic might be negative in nature. Without being tamasic, I can't go to sleep. And at the beginning of the day, if I have to do some action, I have to go down and get things done at work or even at home, etc. I need to be Rajasic. And I need sattvic mentality to do my prayers or in whatever other sadhanas activities, the sattvic mentality has to be there. There's all to be there. The question is which is more dominant. And in every action, there is a combination of these two also. Right. So, and all of this is going to come later on. There's a chapter dedicated for gunas. So that will come up later. But all of this, because we have to understand everything comes together, right? It's not like you can say, it's not relevant in gunas are definitely integral part of your karma yoga also. So how do I do that? How do I rationalize these three gunas for the betterment of myself? It comes in the second line. Nidvando nitya sattvastaha. So nidvandaha. Nidvandaha means opposites. So some level of opposites, not what you call making my life miserable. Let's put it that way, right? What do I mean by it? Right? Basic opposites could be fame and no fame, right? Or good health or bad health. You can take those examples, right? Whatever comes to our life. It could also be craving and aversion are also opposites. So the thing is, the more these opposites come in my way, right? So let's say I have and let's not even take cream. I have an aversion towards somebody who doesn't, somebody who smokes. I just hate that thing. I can't be in the middle of that person. I have to go out somewhere, you know, I'll wear two masks so that, no smoke ever comes near my nose from this thing. Going a bit towards an extreme. I'm not talking COVID here. So, there are people who are so much aversion to certain things, not accepting certain things, that it hits your head in terms of the thoughts. And that negative thought just mulls around, right? Same with craving also. Without it, I cannot be. So that could be a craving for smoking, a craving for food, or a craving to see a movie, or craving to, watch something on Instagram. I have to see every day a particular television serial without which I can't go to sleep. And I tell myself that, today it's okay. I can be without it. Shut it off. Do a detox of those kind of things. Right. So that coming to that maturity level, if what he's referring to here, is coming out of these opposites. And all of this, one way ask, how is it going to happen? All that comes later in the Gita. Now he's just giving the context for all of this, right? Nitya nidvandaha nitya sattvastaha. Nitya sattvastaha. So here sattva word comes in. See, actions, right? I can do actions which are rajasic, which are, let's say I do a rajasic action, like I said, this Vedic ritual that I do for myself. That would come pretty much under, a mentality of, have to get this, has to happen, for my selfish need, etc. If I do that same action, which is, I take the example of that Atirudram that was done, that has a sattva in it. There is still an action. It is the same Vedic ritual, but what is the motive behind that ritual? What is the motive behind that puja that was done? What is the motive behind every Rudrabhishekam that happens every day on Monday in the ashram? Right. Right. So it is meant to uplift people, etc. So same thing. If I do something at home, or if I go to a temple to worship the god, am I going there with a begging bowl? When I say begging bowl, I want this for my son, for my daughter, for my health. Or am I going there with a slightly different mentality? Right. That is what we have to look at in all of this. So if I go with a sattvic mentality, whatever comes, I'm happy. Right? I take whatever comes to me. I just want your blessing. Simply, please bless me. That blessing might take any form, but that's all I'm looking for. Right? With two different thought processes in all of this. So, and then he talks about a word called Yoga Kshema, Nir-Yoga Kshema. This is a very beautiful, here the word yoga and kshema are two different meanings. This is something we have to realize in Bhagavad Gita. The same word in the same, chapter could have two different meanings. Yoga does not mean here yoga. First of all, yoga is not asana, but even that yoga word that we know of, right, which is body, mind, everything together, breath, all that together. It is not even that. Here, yoga, let's understand from this, right? So for everything, if there is something where that most of the people, when I say most of the people, put their time on every day to a thought, what is it? That I need to acquire something. And why do I need to acquire something? I feel good. I feel happy when I get it. That could be a cell phone, that could be a car, that could be for people who are single to get married, or for married people to have a kid, right? Whatever it might be, right? Sense of I want to acquire, because once I get it, I will feel that happiness. That is yoga. The word yoga here means that. Kshema means once I get it, how do I sustain it? How do I maintain it? So, people, I'll take an example. People, get a Mercedes Benz. in Calcutta, for example, I don't know how it is now. Those were the days when you go pick up a nice car from from what you call car place, right? Beautiful car. It used to be that from the time you picked it up, from the time you brought it home, there would be at least 2, 3 dents. Here it is, a beautiful car you got, right? But to maintain it, to keep it all in good shape, to keep it polished, right? People spend time, how to take care of things. Or they have a pet. Sometimes people spend time more on maintaining the pet beautifully, giving it shampoo, this, that, than taking care of their own stuff. So here he's just telling us here, right, is that just look at what is it that you're doing, right? How much of it is in this acquisition mode? There's nothing wrong with acquisition, but how much? What beyond a certain point, you're again only, multiplying the sets of desires that you want. And once it comes in, to control it, maintain it, right, is beyond your power in some sense, right? And there also there is turbulence, right? Oh, this happened, I bought this happened, this went wrong, that went wrong, right? So there's a lot of churning that happens. So he's just warning us, right? Nothing wrong with acquisition, but just don't fall into the trap of these things. And the more you acquire, the more this kshema part comes in. So obviously, what is the solution for all of this? Contentment, being happy with what I have, all that comes later. But for now, he's trying to impress upon the point that, be guarded against these two things. And then so why does he say all of this? He says, you are going in the wrong direction. Things are being taken care of you. Realize that there is a power. Even without you asking, things being given to you. Do you realize it? Why do you keep on acquiring this, that, etc.? What you need tomorrow, shelter? You need food for tomorrow? Whatever is need is given to you. There is a source that takes care of you much more than what you think of. You think you are taking care of yourself. And hence, he says, seek for that higher. And that is where one of the things in the second last stanza it says, establishing in the self. Very potent, simple word. But establishing the self means what? Right? Look at it this way, right? When we are all in the journey, we can go back to some years back when we were all, right? We were seekers at some point. Maybe even now we may be seekers. What is seeker meaning? I'm ignorant about, that higher power. I'm just so much into this mechanical action. In fact, Krishna in one of the later chapters would say, only a very small percentage of the human population want to be even seekers. Very small, 1% or less. You can think of the 99%, what are they doing? Right? So if we are seekers, we're in the path, we should just feel so blessed. So seekers are what? They don't know anything, right? They have been told, right? There is a higher force, there is that, etc. Do this, etc. Not yet convinced. They have not yet, tasted it. It is like tasting that sweet of gulab jamun, about, that feeling goodness somewhere inside that, or a spark that comes from within, they've not tasted it. So they are still seeking. Seeking is one example. It could be right. You go, you had a friend in Pune, 15 years back, and you're going there again, and you want to, reach out to that friend. You have no idea how you're going to go there. You call, this art of living person, that person, this person, somewhere see some connect and somehow reach to that person, right? So it's an ignorant, I don't know. I'm trying, right? And then once I have tasted that little bit, right? I have tasted somewhere, I got something in my life that, I went through a very difficult period and somehow I came out of it. Some bad health problem, I was hospitalized or went through COVID, very tough times, and so I came out. And there I realized there is something more to life than what I am doing. At that time, right, that ignorant part saying, I want to now search for more things. I want to know more, understand a bit more about, get more into the knowledge. So, you can call it that is searching, but I'm now no longer in that ignorant state of I don't know. I know, but I don't know. What do I mean by that? I know that there is a power, but I don't know where, how to reach there. I need some guidance. I need something. Guruji would talk about this as you go from an ignorant I don't know to later on intelligent I don't know. Right? What is it intelligent I don't know? I'm now, I'm more dwelling into, removing all the shackles, removing all the pardas, removing, shining, putting what do you call, scrubbing the diamond so that, I can get to that deeper state. So that is what is covered in this 45th stanza. So you can see here, he's really now getting slowly and slowly, touching aboard on that knowledge, how to reach there. But what are the things that govern, your gunas, right? How to deal with the opposites to some extent. We may not all have the techniques. The techniques and all that will come later. They call it upasanas or sadhanas, whatever you call it. Right, all of that. But here he's giving some of these, directions in some sense. We go to the 46th stanza now. Yavanasta udapane sarvata samprutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. So here, he uses the word brahmana. Tavan sarveshu brahmanasya vijanataha. What is the brahmana here? So here, he's trying to tell you, we're sort of building upon what we already talked about. There is a finite joy. Finite joy is in, simple pleasure. I had one gulab jamun, I feel very good about it. I had second gulab jamun, good, but not as good. Third one, fourth one, I want to get rid of it. I don't want any more. So, it is finite joy, right? It just was there temporarily. After that, it actually became a pain. On the other hand, somebody who goes into the path, somebody who realizes there is a higher power in all of this, right, is able to see that joy, stand out in their life, in their day-to-day life a lot longer. It is referred to as infinite joy. Infinite joy is what somebody like our guru, somebody, for them, they are doing all actions every day, but they are in a blissful, complete bliss. For us, somewhere in between the two of them. But definitely not something, which is just a simple finite joy. So he wants slowly for us, all of us, to get from this finite joy onto that infinite joy. The 47th verse is a very, very potent verse. All of us would have heard this one or the other. In fact, people may not have read the Gita, but would have heard this verse. You may not know where it is from. So let's chant it. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbuhu ma te sangotsva karmani. It's one of those verses Guruji has talked about, many people have talked about, is sometimes misunderstood, not thought through, reflected well. And a layman person will just not understand it by just reading the words of it. So unless you have a realized guru, who has, see the bigger picture of this, only then one will understand what this is. So it's got multiple aspects in this particular stanza. This stanza by itself, right? People have written commentaries on it for 20 to 30 pages, just on this one thing, because it's so deep. We're not going to go into that. That's deep today here, but because the same thing is going to build upon over the next few stanzas in this chapter, and of course in the third chapter also. I think we have to just, imbibe the true spirit of the stanza, by the end of this class. Yeah, those of us who have already heard this would know this well, but the key thing that we understand is this follows this is going to get into the cause-effect relationship that we talked about earlier, right? And cause and effect is an integral part of our life, right? There's no question about it. Nobody needs to even tell, right? For every effect there is a cause, and for the effect that leads to another cause, right? That relationship is an endless relationship everybody goes through. So the first thing that he says, three aspects of the stanza. What is your right? What is not your right? The first thing he says is, you have the right to do your action, right? Karmanyava adhikaraha. That word itself will tell you. Adhikara means I am eligible to do the action. So here we have to understand, right? If of all the living beings, only the human being has got the ability to say, I can do an action. Action consciously with awareness, right? With some, free will. All the other living beings can just simply do either a response or something which is impulsive. They're also doing an action, but it's sort of pre-programmed. I, on the other hand, can do an action intelligently, right? So therefore, that performing action willfully as a free will, only you and I have that as a human being. That Krishna says you have the total right for doing. So, but then having done that action, obviously there has to be an effect, there has to be a result. He says you do not have, to be very clear, you do not have the right to seek a particular result. What are the normal results we look for? Whether what should I get? When will I get? How should I get? And what somebody else should not get in whatever I do. People, sinister mentality people are there, right? I have to do this, but I want to make sure that what I do, somebody else should not benefit from that particular thing. That is also a result that people look for. So in all of this, what are we looking at is again back to that karma, right? So karma, just to talk about it one more time, karma is the same word has got two meanings. Karma, one, you can look at it as karma means action. Yoga means an attitude in a simple language. Karma also means an impression. What is an impression? I do a certain action, right? And if it is not very natural, right? It is something, beyond my Swadharma, that it leads to some impression. I carry some impression, or the results carry an impression, right? Let's just say that, I was supposed to catch a train. I missed that train, right? That leads to some effect. That leads to some impression. Okay, this train is not good. This Ola that I took, is not reliable. On and on and on. Some 2-3 different impressions that is residing in you, right? And that lasts for some period of time. So the impression is also karma. The action is also karma. So here we have to be cognizant of both of these things, right? Because the impression is what is going to lead you to do another action. The impression that you take from one today will govern what thoughts you have tomorrow. Next time when you go on the same trip to catch the same train, that impression will say, okay, I should not take this, Ola. I should take something else. Isn't it? Don't we do all of that? Right? Or, I should go early, or I should take another train. Whatever, it governs certain things from whatever. So that's where the cause and effect is constantly there. So here, Krishna is again reiterating that you have the right to do the action. Now, he says the result is not yours. You don't have any authority of the result. Oh, obviously a layman person is going to hear this and say, I work like a donkey day and a night. at work. And you're saying that, results are not, 20 hours I worked. Results are not going to be commensurate to the amount of time I spent. Not necessarily what Krishna is saying. Why is it? Right? Let's just look at simple things, right? I'm right now, for us even this call, for this class or call to happen, you know, the intent is what, for us to have the call. So there are two sides of the coin, right? I'm sitting here, some preparation I've done, you're there, we have taken some time out to come for this thing, right? Oh, I spent 1 hour, I spent 3 hours doing all of this. Guess what? Nothing happened. This broke the, day one when we had this call, right, before we even started, right? We planned a call. Yet what happened? Some network issue, power issue, right? Or I fall sick, or people who are supposed to be, fall sick. What happens? So there are many more factors than what we think. We think I am the primary cause for that action. Little realizing that there are many other causes for that thing. If a simple thing, right? If I say I am doing the cooking today, I'm the cook, right? I take rice, right? Put it in the stove, and I heat that thing and I serve it to people. Take rice alone. Am I the only person who's done that action? Yes, I took that rice from a container, placed it into another container, put water to it, placed it on a gas stove. And the gas stove, what it does? It gave the heat. The law of fire is to give heat. It's that heat that made that rice cook. And that cooked rice is what you then serve. Were you the only one involved? So if we look at everything, right? If I were to even look at raising our hand, right, to do something, what is it? I have a thought to raise my hand. That thought somewhere goes into my brain through the nervous system. Nervous system then says, move this organs, and then lift this hand up, isn't it? If even one part of it doesn't work, you see this in people in Parkinson's. They want to do something, it doesn't move. They can't hold a spoon. You and I can hold a spoon. They may not hold a spoon properly. Right. That tells you that there's so many other things. I might have the intent, right? But whether that happens or not is not, that result is not under my governing force. There's a lot more to it. So we say it in the corporate world, stakeholders. You're not the only stakeholder in every action that you do. There are multiple stakeholders. So if there are multiple stakeholders, should the result be distributed across all of them? Can I say that in a group of 10 people, if they all have done a project to make it successful, only one person gets it, the lead? No, right? Everybody gets a distributed thing, right? So how can one say that I should get that result? Not logical. Plus, even beyond the stakeholders, for something to manifest, there is a much bigger force. Without it, nothing happens. Even if somebody put in 100% of their effort for something to bear fruit, until and unless there is a supreme force that blesses it, it ain't going to happen. Not even a blade of grass can move without the supreme entity. Not even a blade of grass. The wind might be there, but it may not move. So we have to just, this just takes a lot of internalization, right? So we have to understand that in the law of action, there are multiple governing factors. And I am just one of those people, who have done the action, not necessarily all of them. Let's look at our own thing, right? How many times have we, so here, let's go back to one basic thing. So for us we have to understand this in a little bit broader sense. For us to have, a certain result, only we do an action, isn't it? There is a goal in mind. I want to achieve, I want to do this. Let's say to catch a train, there is a goal. And for that, I plan. And then I take a step A, step B, step C, step D, and reach the station and I catch the train, isn't it? So I do that planning. Planning, absolutely, we have absolute right. But to catch the train from the step A, you still get on a car, you book the car. After that, step B, where the car takes you there, but it doesn't break down, etc., you don't have any control. How long does it take to reach the station? Whether there'll be a traffic jam that will prevent you from going to the station on time, you don't have any control. Right. So by all means, we have to plan. This doesn't mean we have to. By all means, we should look at a goal in mind, right? Whether it is a catching a train goal or it could be, that I should attend a course or I should do this particular volunteer work here and do all of that stuff. Very good goals to have. All of that we should have. But realize that you are not in control of everything that happens, right? And that is the reason we always, in our in Sanatan Dharma, it always says, do all of that and do a prayer. Do a prayer, right? May this be fulfilled. Because what are you looking at that? I can do only so much. I know there is a higher power that makes everything happen. I surrender. You make it happen. Right? And whether that happens or not, you take that as a prasad. Take that prasad example, right? We go to a temple. Some of you would have done pujas at home. Some of you would have done Satyanarayana puja, etc. 5 hours, 6 hours puja we do in a temple. Yes or no? We get a prasad. How much is that prasad? A little teaspoon of water, a teaspoon of milk, right? Or some akshada, etc. Isn't it? Do we complain? 10 hours I spent doing puja and I'm getting little prasad. They take that prasad as a nectar. We take that prasad as so heavenly, right? We don't question it. So in all our practices, there is enough teaching to say that, don't look at quantity of input has to be the quantity of output. I make it very little, but that little, so if I have the prasada buddhi in the results of the action, that's all there is to it. What is the prasada buddhi? Just think of the temple prasad. Just think of that. Whatever comes to me, I take it. I take it as a blessing. I take it as a prasad. I take it as amrit. Right? So if it means I spend 20 hours and I should have achieved this, I got only little, prasad. Prasad buddhi. So, and now let's look at our own things, right? Ask yourself in the years that you've been living, how many times you've planned, done things, how many have been fulfilled? Not all, definitely a small percentage only, because that's when it'll dawn on us that there are certain things that are not there. And there are sometimes I would have done hardly anything and I get too many things. That's also there. That comes up later. I have hardly done any effort. I've done only, let's say, 1 hour of work and I get a throughput which is 10 hours worth of, work related. That is also another type of blessing, that comes later. But here we are talking about working, action, action, action. Why is he saying all of this? He's telling in Arjuna, you in chapter 1, you gave me a lecture saying, I do this action, this cousin of mine will be killed, my grandfather will be killed, this will happen, I will get this, etc., etc. As though he knew everything, the results. He's saying, you don't know anything, man. None of the results, he's pretty much saying you're ignorant about what you said that time. Right. And all of this is to put that into Arjuna's head also, that all that was rubbish. So for us also, we need to take it also that, by all means, we should do the action, do it, give it 100%, right? Do it to the best extent. But whatever comes, I take it as a prasad, I take it as no regrets, right? But, it happened, it didn't happen, so be it. But I continue to, not get caught on that result. So not getting, another way one would say this, not getting attached to that result, not getting caught on that result. If I get caught on that result, that becomes an impression. And that impression will carry on to the next set of work. But if I take it as a prasad, it just came and went. Then I was a bit upset. Yeah, it didn't happen. I missed the train. I missed this, etc. So what? I'll do something else. I move on, right? So, and then one third thing. So all of this, if I talk to a person, he'll say, why should I do that action? So the third, one of the things he says is that don't get therefore carried away that I should not do any action. If I tell this to somebody, right, there are a lot of other forces, there's a blessing, etc. Why should I do any action, right? I can just sit idle. Things are going to happen. Things are just going to happen, right? I'll just be idling. So he's warning. Your job from the time you were born till the time you're going to leave this body is to work. There is no ifs and buts about it. So that is also being said very clearly, right? Mate sangotsva karmani. Continue the action. So, yeah, I think I'm going to, not go into another stanza here because it's a very potent verse. Maybe you should talk a little bit more about it. And some other verses will be there which will build upon this for a period of time. So just take a little bit more time today, reflect on it a bit. Maybe share your thoughts. That has happened in my life.
Not
right?
audible, not
The
audible.
whole concept of what is being talked about in 47th stanza. Okay.
Repeat.
Yeah, here's another example. Just for a minute, we lost the connection here.
Yeah,
I
what
don't know
did you
where
say? Please repeat what you said. Last time it got cut.
Yeah. All I said, I don't know where I missed, the connection got lost. I said we will dwell on this particular stanza, and the things that we talked about today a bit more in the rest of the time, and continue the others. The rest of the slokas from 48 are going to build upon this a bit more, and also into the third chapter. Okay. So let's go around the room, and what I meant was share the experiences. Right? This is not a theoretical topic. This is pretty much relevant to each and everything that we do today, right? So let's be very practical, in terms of what has happened in our life, what has, where have we seen experiences such as what is being reflected in the stanza. So would like to start with Kalpaji.
I think first, let me just one thing you said is that that attachment that I am doing this, that I factor is not correct. That should not be there. Secondly, we are all governed by the three gunas. So, how to, again, that the three gunas affect us day in and day out. But to go beyond the three gunas is again, so not to get attached to the result, but to keep doing the work that is what you call our duty without looking at the outcome of it and not getting attached to the result. There is always something like a divine grace which is conducting us always. So it is better to surrender to that and then be conscious about our action. That's what I understood. But it applies to me in a lot of ways. I don't know. Actually, I'm basically an engineer, and then I went into finance also. So I did a lot of project management, especially for NGOs. Many of the work I took, some of them were really, it was, I never even thought in my life that I will do it. But something always pushed me into it, and all alone. And then the outcome was something unimaginable even for me if I think of it now. But I know it was a divine force that, maybe all my, my existence was fulfilled by doing some of this work, which I never even dreamt of in my life. And I don't want to actually, if you want me to specify, I will specify. Otherwise, I always feel that, something is always guiding me, my guiding force. And even learning Bhagavad Gita came at a time in my life that, it is so, for the past maybe 1.5, 2 years, I'm in with Bhagavad Gita at different levels. But then, it is, even that has come only because of the divine grace. So, though there are always, some doubts in life, why this, why that. But still, I feel every day there is, the divine will take care of me. That's what
Thank you.
I feel. At every moment, I know there is something is holding me. Guiding me. Even attending this class is divine grace only. Is that right? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Would like to share, Shefali, Vani, other Bhavani, anything you want to share?
Jai Gurudev.
Yes, Uday.
So I'll admit, stuff that we discussed today is not something that one doesn't know. But, in a sense, it stirs one, I won't call it doubt, question. That while you know it, you've heard it with Guru's grace, with divine grace, you're in this class, you've received this. But in this world, you are not operating alone. The stakeholders. And they are at different stages of, I'm nobody to say evolution, I'm nothing, but there are different stages of receiving. Let's just put it that way. So, navigating that different level is a challenge. So, you try because they come to you with problems, or even if they don't come to you, they are family, like husbands, sisters, whatever, child, they are friends, they're the society where we live, they are part of our volunteering committees, right, for Art of Living. How do you navigate? And this is a question I'd even, put it for one of the satsangs to Gurudev. I don't know if he answered, maybe I missed it, that with your grace, you've given us knowledge, you are nurturing our intuitive ability, and you sort of get to know who's what. So what do you do? How do you live in this world? Right. So, in one of the sessions, I don't know, somebody asked me, who's your guru? I said, my first guru was my mother. And this thing that without his grace, even a blade of grass won't move. So in our language, she would say, हुक्म बास पत्ता न हिले, कि उसकी मर्जी के बिना एक पत्ता भी नहीं मूव कर सकता, right? So we are very fortunate. We got it very early from mother and Gurudev, father, mother, everything for us. But I'm not alone. I have to navigate this world. How do I do that? So right now I'm a little unsettled.
Yeah, I think it's good to be in that space, right? We should just look back at 5 years earlier and 5 years now. And somewhere, right, we are all evolving, right? So how that evolving happens, it's all magical means that he has.
Oh yeah.
Some different people come in our lives. You go to, you take a course somewhere there is an awakening. So it is never that easy to say how this all works. The only thing, and Geeta also says this, right? Once you're in this path, you are slowly navigated. You don't worry about it. You put forth, you will be steadfast in your practices. You'll be steadfast in your beliefs, in your faith, your Shraddha. Things just are taken care of. That's all I would say. It's very hard to articulate it because it's going to vary from person to person, right? And divine comes to us in many forms in our lives in different ways, and we just take each one as a, somewhere somebody has come, it means there is a, there is a source. I go by that, right? So we don't never ignore something. When an opportunity knocks on the door, I don't ignore it.
Got it.
So that's the way I would look at it. Okay. Urmila ji, kuch,
Yeah, there is one Marathi song which explains, it is self-explicit. तूच करता आणि करविता शरण तुला भगवंता. We are not the doer. Somebody is getting it done by the cosmic power which is existing there and which is doing everything rather. So you need to surrender completely and do your work. That's it. So he only is the doer. We don't know who he is. Every time it changes. And every time the knowledge or information or whatever you call it, it gets brushed up. It gets clearer day by day, whatever we learn and try to learn. It is like that.
very nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Bhavani ji?
Yeah, Jai
Go
Guru.
to
Bhavani.
Yeah, we
Yes.
do the other
Bhavani, yeah.
Bhavani first.
That
Ah.
one, yeah. Kalpaka, please could you unmute your this? Somewhere it's coming from. Thank
Yeah, please go ahead, Bhavani.
Jai Gurudev. One thing we regarding thoughts you are explaining, we have to be very put focus on what we are thinking, the quality of thoughts, because which in turn leads to the action. Our thoughts will turn into action, and that action again will create impressions. So we have to be very careful about what. How it is leading the thought, which direction it is leading to. And the three gunas, like all the whatever actions we are doing, that is one of these, it will fall into these three gunas, but all the three gunas are required based on like kind of action we are doing. Like for sleep, the tamasic thing is required, and sattvic thing for doing meditation, and the rajasic for doing our actions, our work and all. And one more thing, the last thing, whatever you have discussed. So there is something higher force behind everything. I always I wonder right from the day I came into this path, how everything is moving. I always say, so I feel gratitude for that, because the courses I am taking, the kind of supporting environment I got, really I didn't do anything. I always think that same thing, whatever you said. So I didn't do anything, but still somehow I'm guided and coming to the even this week I'm going for Siam too also. Kind of financial comfort and the family support, everything. And so really there is higher force which is really driving us. It's not we, but we don't know what is behind all this. How we come in contact with some certain, some people only. Really, we don't have answers for all of that. So why I'm not going into some other way, only this direction I'm coming, and why I have interest to know knowledge or know this journey, why I'm interested in this journey. Really, I don't have answers. Only thing, yeah, just know that there is something behind, higher power behind all this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just a hunger with I don't know, I don't have answers is the right thing,
Yes,
because
exactly.
that hunger
Yeah.
itself will take us there, right? Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's as Guruji said. Yeah, it's gentle way of saying real. I don't know how
Yeah,
all this
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Okay.
that's
Bhavani Ramni ji.
Yeah. Jai Gurudev. Well, I will say as it flows, when you talked about this Rajas, Tamas and this, I had this Tamas sort of thing was default in me, looking for spirit of inquiry, with getting so absorbed in all these things that the rest didn't matter to me, prioritize. But at the same time, the Rajas got into it time and again when it was kindled by people from outside. For example, when I was very young, I used to be compared for beauty, for God bless all of them, for proficiency in maths. They never thought that God bless all of them. They did not know that the Sudarshan Kriya. They were not, they're all from very high families, very rich, very well off, very educated, highly intelligent, but including, I don't want to say who all in relationship, they used to compare ki dekho ye, all these people are so tall, this, so model like 5'7", all beauties in my family. And I was the short one, and like Maggie cuts her hair, I used to go around with wild hair and climb up trees and all that. Okay. I hope I'm not boring you, just flowing like that. Are you sure? Can it flow?
Yeah. Please,
Okay.
please go ahead.
So then I used to watch, then I used to see lots of Bhagawat Seva, so many people doing the Geeta, chanting, so much holiness. And I used to watch whether I'd go to a temple with my mom and dad and uncle, or dad never came to temple ever. He said, the God is here. They all used to go, my aunties, my attes, so many people used to go and come back, and then they used to talk about all these, something like what Shifali said. So I used to think, where does it match, oh God? So much you have made scriptures and this, all of them saying it. And why they're all talking immediately after they leave the chapel and come out and get into the house, they start doing this, fighting for jewelry or talking for this and big things. And I used to try away and be quiet. They thought I'm a Buddhu. They used to call me a dance because all of them got scholarships and medals in maths. No one got 99%, it was only 100. And I was the one who used to be orator, theater, that, poetry, philosophy, go and talk. I used to be called in inter-school competition. That never saw because most of them were highly that maths science group. So I used to look at this and then I used to have doubts. Same thing happened when I went to my in-laws' place also. So many things I've seen. Again, big family. Akka Kalpaka is here. I saw all the things and love my mother-in-law, everything and all that. But like in a family, there are different sides of people. Then the questions used to come and is love so conditional or unconditional? So the tamas was there. But what was I looking for? The desire to purify others, or this is also a rajas. Who am I? I feel so. So I was getting caught up in all this, right? In professional jealousies where they never used to allow me to come up in the profession because people were my age that time. Those were Shifali's age or Bhavani's age, I think, I don't know. So they used to not allow me to come up. I used to sit to bring up the children language. जो मराठी जानता था न हिंदी जानता न वो जानता था मैं short intervals में मैं बैठ के उसको करती थी तो they all thought you're trying to impress the organization. Bhavani, if you do that, they will ask me to do it. Don't do it. The whole thing boycott, all these things, and then only that poem came out. मैं कौन हूँ? अपनों ने मुझे समझा नहीं न समझा पराई ने समझा तो समझा सिर्फ उसने जिसने मुझे बनाया. Because I was finding so much professional jealousy. So I said, what is all this? They're all doing all these pujas, these Diwali, wo ye, itna sincerely ritualistic kar rahe. What are they within? These questions came up. And then again, in my relationship with my husband, children, their roles, my this with them, all these. And I found that all the time I was only being kicked around by others because my eyes were all around. That is why, because the rajas was to make them happy. If I do that, maybe dad, if I try to do so desperately, I try to do maths or desperately I had to do that. So, but the event was there. So in that thing, I came down from 55%, I came to 35%. And the teacher used to compare, all the three sisters are 110%. Bhavani, where are you? So that thing made me understand that is also a rajas, looking for something purifying and trying to purify others. एक बार ऐसे float मिल गया ना सुदर्शन क्रिया और ये. After all the roller coaster rides I had, my dears, entire life, all that had been a real blessing. Once the float was there, I suddenly started losing all those fears and inhibitions of people not loving me, wanting to be loved, wanting to be respected, and others, and all those things fell. And just I fell into the water, ऐसे बैठ गए जैसे छोटा बच्चा डालो तो वो डरता नहीं है ना, before the cognitive development. Before the cognitive development starts at 2 years, the child put in the water, the child doesn't know it's water. That stage I am in now.
Very nice. Good. Good to hear. Wonderful. We'll continue next week, all of us. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.